Deep beneath West Virginia, there is a cave so vast that no natural entrance exists. Explorers had to dig their way in, but some who entered never came out. In 1999, 4 cavers ventured into Scott Hollow's twisting darkness, where one wrong turn could be fatal. Then, a sudden fall, a crack of breaking bones, a man dangling 20 feet above a rushing underground river, his ribs shattered. No way up, no easy way down, and the rocks above him were crumbling. This is the true story of a cave that doesn't forgive mistakes. Viewer discretion advised. This true story contains very intense moments that may disturb some viewers. Scott Hollow Cave. Deep beneath the hills of West Virginia lies Scott Hollow Cave, a massive underground maze with over 24.7 miles of mapped passages and a depth of 571 feet. Now, what makes this cave unique? Well, unlike most caves, it has no natural entrance, until explorers dug one open in 1984, revealing a hidden world of rivers, towering passages, and ancient geological secrets. Scott Hollow is part of a mature karst system, meaning that water has slowly dissolved limestone over millions of years, carving out tunnels and underground streams. The cave acts as a secret tributary to the Greenbrier River, with its main waterway, the Mystic River, flowing 6.5 miles underground. Smaller streams feed into it from both east and west, each following different paths shaped by cracks in the rock and even an unmapped ancient fault line. The cave has upper and lower sections, with the upper passages mostly dry and disconnected, remnants of an older, inactive phase of cave formation. The lower levels are where the action happens, with active streams cutting through the rock and carrying chert gravels coated in black manganese oxide. Some sections even contain relic sediments from long-gone underground lakes, now being slowly washed away by the flowing water. Since its discovery, explorers have found 3 more artificial entrances. But mapping the cave is still a challenge. Some passages require scuba diving, and new tunnels are still being uncovered. The cave's delicate ecosystem is also affected by surface activities like farming and well drilling, which have accidentally punctured into the cave at least twice. With its complex geology, hidden rivers, and ongoing discoveries, Scott Hollow is more than just a cave. It is a living record of West Virginia's underground history. Into the labyrinth. The first light of morning colored the Appalachian Mountains in soft gold and pink. On the 28th of August, 1999, at about 7:15 a.m., 4 people walked quietly through the foggy woods near Sinks Grove, West Virginia. Philip Henry, a 37-year-old cave explorer with more than 15 years of experience, adjusted the straps of his heavy backpack. He looked at his friends. His breath made small clouds in the cool morning air, and his boots crunched on wet leaves and small branches. Kim Hedges, who was walking next to her husband, Kenny, gently poked him with her elbow. "Do you think we brought enough rope this time?" she asked, a small smile on her face. Kenny, who was 42 and the oldest in the group, laughed back. His face looked worn from many years of going into caves, but he moved in a steady and sure way. He moved like someone who had spent more time inside caves than most people spent in their own houses. "After what happened last time? Yeah, definitely," he answered, shaking his head as he remembered their trip to Mammoth Cave the year before, which had almost ended very badly. They had almost run out of rope in a deep vertical shaft then. Clay Whitaker, the youngest at 29 and the quietest of the group, was already carefully reviewing the cave maps one last time. His sharp eyes scanned the details, mentally noting key passages and potential hazards. Though he spoke little, his observations were always precise, and the others trusted his judgment completely. Weather forecasts had warned that thunderstorms might come in the afternoon, but they weren't worried. They would be deep inside Scott Hollow Cave long before any bad weather arrived. The temperature above ground was at about 58 degrees Fahrenheit, but they knew that the cave would be colder, staying at a constant 52 degrees with almost 100% wetness in the air, making every surface slippery. Philip called out, "Final gear check," his voice cutting through the quiet morning. One by one, they went through their equipment, ensuring that nothing had been forgotten. Each of them carried primary LED headlamps with spare bulbs, secondary waterproof flashlights, and 200 feet of sturdy static rope. Ascenders and descenders were securely fastened to their harnesses, ready for any vertical sections that they might encounter. Their first aid kits were stocked with splints, trauma supplies, and emergency medications. Folded neatly in their packs were lightweight emergency blankets, high-calorie rations to keep their energy up, and water purification tablets just in case their supply ran low. But most importantly, they carried detailed topographic cave maps, carefully protected in waterproof cases to prevent damage from the damp cave environment. Kenny's expression grew serious as he addressed the group. "Remember," he said, his voice low and steady, "Scott Hollow isn't like those tourist caves with marked paths and safety rails. The Mystic River passage we're aiming for has taken experienced cavers hours to navigate, even when they knew exactly where they were going." Clay nodded in agreement, carefully folding up the map and tucking it into a secure pocket. "And the upper levels haven't been fully mapped yet," he added. "If we find anything new, we document it carefully." With their final checks complete, the group walked up to the simple metal gate that covered the entrance to Scott Hollow Cave, which was made by people. Again, unlike most caves, this one didn't have a natural opening. Explorers had dug their way in years before in order to find its secrets. The gate made a slight creaking sound as they lifted it, showing a wide, black, empty space below. At 9:30 a.m., the team left the bright morning sun behind as they entered the cave's gaping mouth. In an instant, daylight disappeared, replaced by complete darkness that felt heavy around them. Their headlamps created small circles of light in the overwhelming blackness, showing only what was directly in front of them. The temperature dropped immediately, making Philip shiver as cold air penetrated his clothes. Moisture formed on his helmet as he breathed in the cave's ancient smell. Wet stone mixed with the sharp mineral scent of water that had been carving through rock for thousands of years. Clay had the cave map and was leading the way, also telling the others to be careful about sudden drops in the floor. They moved carefully but steadily through the first tunnels. Some passages were tall enough to walk through normally, while at some points they had to bend low under rocky ceilings. The walls sparkled when their lights hit them, covered in shiny calcite crystals that looked like frozen stars. By 11:45 a.m., they had arrived at a larger open space where several tunnels met. Kenny pulled out their map and compass, studying them in the dim light. "If this is right," he said, "the Mystic River should be down that left passage, about 200 yards away." Kim aimed her light down the tunnel, revealing a low ceiling that would soon force them to crawl. Philip checked the time, pleased with their progress. "Let's keep going to the river," he suggested. "We can eat lunch there before exploring the northern sections." As they continued, the cave changed around them. The dry, easy paths from earlier disappeared and were replaced by slippery channels that had been polished smooth by flowing water. Green algae made the rocks dangerously slick. They had to slow down here and watch every step. What had begun as a straightforward hike was now becoming a more serious challenge, reminding them that caves always demand respect and that conditions can change quickly in the underground world. By 1:30 p.m., the team heard the Mystic River before they saw it, a growing roar of rushing water echoing through the tunnels. The narrow passage suddenly opened into a wide chamber where a powerful underground river cut through the rock. The black water moved fast, glittering like polished stone under their headlamps. Clay crouched by the riverbank and touched the water, yanking his hand back instantly. "Freezing," he warned. "About 45 degrees. You wouldn't last long if you fell in." They ate lunch on a dry rock shelf near the river, their sandwiches slightly soggy from the damp cave air. Kenny noticed dark lines on the opposite wall showing where floodwaters had risen during heavy rains. "We're lucky it's been dry," he remarked. Philip studied the riverbank, pointing out how all the small rocks lined up in the exact same direction, proof of the strong currents that must flow here during floods. By 3:15 p.m., the team was so tired that they prepared to return to the surface. Clay suggested following the river downstream to a passage called the Big Crawl, and then climbing up through the breakdown room. Packing their gear, they began the journey back, their lights bouncing off of the rushing water beside them. The return trip felt harder. Their legs ached from hours of careful walking, and their boots slipped more often on the wet rocks. What had been exciting in the morning now felt like a long, tiring hike as they focused on watching their step in the fading glow of their headlamps. At 4:45 p.m., the team reached a confusing tunnel intersection that they would later call the Junction of Doom. Kim was the first to notice that something was wrong. "This doesn't make sense," she said, staring at the map. Instead of the downward slope that they expected, the path before them climbed upward, the exact opposite of what their map showed. Philip's face tightened with worry. "Did we take a wrong turn?" Kenny checked the compass, his face falling. "We must have gone left when we should have gone right about 100 yards back. Now we're heading away from the exit." Clay looked at his watch, realizing that they had already been underground for 8 exhausting hours. "Let's just retrace our steps carefully," he suggested. But Kenny spotted a possible shortcut. "Wait, listen." He pointed to a tight crack in the rock where the faint sound of rushing water echoed from below. "If we can squeeze down to the underground river from here, it might actually get us out faster than going all the way back." The team hesitated, weighing their options. Take the risky unknown path toward the sound of water, or spend precious energy backtracking through the long tunnels that they had already traveled through. At 5:20 p.m., Kenny carefully climbed down the narrow crack to check to see if it indeed led to the underground river. After a tense wait, his voice echoed up. There was a way through, but it would be a tight, slippery squeeze. As the others started climbing down, one by one, Philip noticed another possible route. A small opening in the collapsed rocks near the ceiling looked pretty promising. "Hey, this might be easier," Philip called out, already pulling himself up to investigate. But before his friends could respond, disaster struck. The unstable rocks shifted under his weight, sending him tumbling down the muddy slope in a terrifying fall. His body slammed against a sharp ledge with a sickening crack that echoed through the cave. Somehow, Philip managed to stop his fall by bracing himself in a tight chimney position just above the rushing river. Every breath sent stabbing pains through his chest. The loud crack that he'd heard was almost certainly a broken rib. Kim's panic scream filled the chamber as the others realized what had happened. What had seemed like a quick shortcut had now suddenly turned into a life-threatening emergency deep underground. As the team struggled to help injured Philip, more trouble nearly struck. A loose rock the size of a football came crashing down, almost hitting Kenny before he dodged at the last second. When Kenny reached Philip, he could see the pain on his friend's face even in the dim light. Philip breathed in quick, shallow gasps, a sure sign that something was seriously wrong. "Broken ribs. Right side. Can't take deep breaths," Philip managed to say between clenched teeth. Help arrived unexpectedly when another group of cavers appeared, including Daryl Trusty, a paramedic who knew exactly what to do. Trusty worked quickly, checking Philip's injuries. 4 or 5 broken ribs, maybe a punctured lung, he told the group. "We need to keep him warm and support his chest." Using spare clothes and climbing straps, they carefully wrapped Philip's torso in order to stabilize his broken ribs. Every touch made Philip gasp in pain, but it had to be done. At 7:30 p.m., they faced a hard choice: wait hours for a rescue team, or try to get Philip out themselves. Despite the pain, Philip insisted on moving. What followed was an exhausting, painful crawl towards the surface. They moved inch by inch, with Philip biting back screams every time they hit a rough spot. The hardest part came when they had to climb up a 30-foot wall. Using ropes and all their strength, they lifted Philip up the rock face. His face turned pale as chalk and his breathing sounded terrible, but he never gave up. Through sheer determination and teamwork, they kept moving towards the light up above. At 11:15 p.m., after hours of painful crawling and climbing, the team finally spotted moonlight through the cave's entrance grate. Philip nearly cried with relief when he felt the cool night air on his face, a feeling he had never appreciated so much before. An ambulance was already waiting, called by Daryl's team when they had reached a spot with a radio signal underground. The medics quickly gave Philip oxygen and fluids through an IV as his friends watched, exhausted but relieved. Kenny squeezed Philip's shoulder as they loaded him into the ambulance. "You're the toughest guy I know," he said. Despite the pain, Philip smiled weakly and even joked, "Next time, I'll actually look at the map." The X-ray showed that Philip had 4 broken ribs and a partially collapsed lung from his fall. Doctors said he would heal, but it would take months before his body was strong enough to even think about caving again. The accident taught them all important lessons about checking maps carefully, watching for loose rocks, and being prepared for emergencies in places where help can't quickly reach you. Now, while Philip's body healed, his love for caves never faded. But from then on, he always double-checked every route, and he carried extra safety gear, knowing firsthand how quickly adventure can turn into survival in a situation underground. The story of Philip's accident spread quickly among many cavers, not as a tale of failure, but as a reminder to respect the caves, to prepare for the unexpected, and to never take safety for granted. Because in the underground, where darkness swallows sound and every step could be your last, survival isn't just about skill. It's about knowing your limits, trusting your team, and understanding that sometimes the greatest challenge isn't the cave itself, but knowing when to turn back. And so, Scott Hollow Cave remained, silent and vast, its secrets still waiting to be discovered by those brave or careful enough to seek them. If you enjoyed this harrowing tale of adventure and survival, well, then don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more real-life exploration stories, and hit that notification bell so that you never miss an upload. And let us know in the comments, would you have tried to climb out injured like Philip, or would you have waited for rescue? Let us know. See you next time.